Okay, so we are live now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on topic of AI-powered software delivery, innovations, impacts, and the future of development. My name is Mateusz. I'm tech evangelist in Brainhub, and I will have the pleasure of hosting today's session. Today, we'll be discussing many aspects of AI, focusing particularly on delivering products, executing projects, development, testing, skill set required by development team, and basically speaking, the future of AI. Now I'd like to introduce our special guests. Let's start with Mingyang Ma, Principal AI Product Manager at AppliedAI. Mingyang, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself and your background?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to this discussion with all the other experts here. I've been being in the role of product manager for almost 7 years, also bring a lot of different AI product or different software product into production. And I'm really looking forward to hear other people's perspective about how AI will shape the software development.
Thank you, Mingyang. Gergana Drockur, Product Strategist AI at AI Product Fellows.
Yes, hi everyone. Great to be here and thanks for the invitation. My name is Gergana and I have been now, I think, run about more than 15 years in product and technology, starting out as computer scientist with strong technology background and focusing on product and data-driven enhancements. So I'm pretty much in love with solving customer problems and being on the interface between product and technology, like enabling businesses with technology as such. And I'm very, very passionate about AI technologies and about recent trends happening around that. So that's why I founded also AI Product Fellows, where we do a lot with product innovation, AI-driven product innovation, and it's particularly targeting product leaders and product experts in the field.
Thank you, Gergana. Bartłomiej Roszak, Head of AI at STX Next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. So I am 10 years in AI industry, starting as a junior engineer, progressing to leadership roles, to more management executive roles. And today in STX Next, I am responsible for both strategic and technical aspects of AI.
Thank you, Bartek. Dorian Selz, co-founder and CEO at Squirro.
Thank you, Mateusz, for having me. Dorian is my name indeed. And yes, you said it. I'm co-founder and CEO of Squirro. Squirro is an AI company that's been around for a while. Happy to talk about how we deploy and how we use AI in delivery processes and more.
Thank you, Dorian. And Dennis Teichmann, co-founder and CEO at Bont.ai.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thanks for the invitation. I'm really eager to discuss all the topics on AI. I'm a serial entrepreneur in the software business. I sold my first company a couple of years ago. And right now we are building Bont, which is an AI-based co-pilot for sales and commercial teams.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you all, guys. So I want this webinar to be interactive, so I encourage our viewers to ask questions throughout the session, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go along. But at the end, there is expected a Q&A session. So let's move on to the main part of our session, which is AI-powered software delivery. And let's start with a simple question. Why AI matters for modern software delivery? Dennis, could you start?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a general question. I mean, AI is coming up in all areas of business. It's not only for software development. It's changing the way how we do things and how we process things. So it's evolving in all areas. And I think for software development, the main change I see and why it matters is it's completely changing the way how we are building code base and how we are building technology products. So what I see is AI is a good basis to do some routine tasks right now already. So it's already building like automatic things, automatic testings, which were done like 10 years ago, mostly manual. And this is, I think, the biggest change. And on the long run, I think AI will be a strong supporter for the future software development and also enables, of course, more complex software development tasks because it's just scaling faster. You can do things much, much faster. And as an example, if as I built my first company, until we had a first product, it took us, I don't know, 24 to 30 man-months to build it. The second product was 12. This is just because of you using tools and technologies, and of course as well AI, to enable things to do things faster in a quicker and more efficient way.
Thank you. Mingyang, could you give us your perspective?
Yeah, I would like to bring maybe something different. I think AI, especially since after ChatGPT, of course, everybody experienced the culture change. I think that's also strong impact also on the software development. I have worked for BMW Group for 5 years. And that time when I was in the AI group within BMW, nobody really cares about what we're doing or what we're saying. They will probably just ask a few questions. Hey, what that is, and can you really bring value to the BMW? But now, of course, there's no doubt every department along the value chain, not only in the car manufacturing, but I think all the industry will be shaped, and everybody do care about software development, care about software. Everybody, I think, instead of just using the result of a software, now everybody have to also dealing with how to use an AI tool. Like everybody becomes really a user.
Thank you. Bartek, your perspective.
Sure. So I would say that most AI solutions that deals with software development are pretty unmature, I would say. So I wouldn't say that AI have a huge impact to software development right now. There are a few tools like Copilot that we could say that are mature and are widely adopted, but most of new tools are unmature, and we are pretty not sure what kind of ROI we can get from implementing them. So the only like a big change that I see in software development is that every company, every team is doing their own research, trying new tools, trying what fits. But not many tools are widely used, well tested, I would say, and we can and I think we still mostly talk about the huge potential that AI have to transform, than to like about the transformation that already happened.
Thank you. And Gergana, your point.
Yes, thank you. So a few things were, of course, said around automating routine tasks in software development. I think that's one that's really major, like allowing developers to focus on also more strategic and creative tasks. I, of course, look also very strongly from the product perspective, and the same actually applies also to product people. So not many product managers would spend lots of their time writing user stories. They will spend lots of their time in research, and now we are getting great help with Gen AI products, of course. So I think that's really important, and overall it means that it allows us to come to a higher order thinking, I would say, away from pure routine task, really to higher order task with more complexity, where I see also lots of potential in future. I think the funny part is that AI has been here all the time over the years, right? It's not something that just popped up the last years, but now we are having a strong conversation around it, also thanks to the whole Gen AI technology, which made it more accessible. And it's really great also to observe that now companies are open to have this conversation, because I don't see a product development taking place without having a look at the big picture and having a look what the AI landscape has to contribute about it. Not just really pure incremental product changes, but looking what are AI tools, what is our AI frameworks, which solve like really critical problems on the one side, and on the other side having also AI, Gen AI just as an assistance also for product people as such.
Thank you. And Dorian, your perspective?
About 12 months ago, there was this GitHub Copilot announcement. And about 2 minutes after that GitHub Copilot announcement, the first tweets, or X's, whatever it's called today, starts to appear this is the end of software programmers, right? 12 months down the road, I do see plenty of software programming job ads. What went wrong? It's what has been picked up before. It's the early stages piece, right? And that's for me the thing. At the moment, all of this is, frankly speaking, largely overhyped. There is a massive difference between using this on a day-to-day base and it having large-scale impact on measurable levels compared to what it was sold to 12 months ago. Now, at the same time, to say, this is just another of the IT industry's fad, and all of us here are in the IT industry. Our industry is legend to put lipstick on a pig every other year, a bit of another color type, and chase that pig down the road. Just 3 more recent examples. Anyone remember the e-commerce revolution? Anyone remember blockchain? Anyone remember actually the advent of the internet, right? Just to mention 3. Now, to say this is just yet another hype and there is zero impact would be massively wrong. But I do personally think that the outcome of that transformative change that's happening now is going to be subtly different than what the protagonists last year told us when they said to us, GitHub Copilot is the end of the software programmer. But that's maybe the hour ahead of us to explore this.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your perspectives. As everyone can see, there are many approaches to the topic, but I think we can all agree that AI has quite a large impact on our lives. Even if overhyped, for sure, there are some topics that will impact our lives in the near future. So let's dive into more details. Let's start with project or just products perspective. Let's start with a question: how has AI changed the way we deliver products and execute projects? Gergana, could you start?
Yeah, sure. I could start. Well, I mean, one change definitely that happened from product perspective is that I would not see a single product person doing a product research without reaching out to a Gen AI tool, right? Through the Gen AI tools, we definitely have a very strong tool set when it comes to researching the market, just to putting data together, which matters a lot for product discovery, right? In really early product phases as such. On the other side, when we execute on projects, when we just do product delivery, of course, a lot of automation is taking place when it comes to user story writing, stuff like this. And there I see a huge space and also a huge shift, which I'm personally very happy about, where product people will have even more time to focus on the things with more impact, right? Not on pure technical user story writing, which is somehow necessary for development at this point, maybe not in future, but they can focus more really on the problem. They can focus more on the customer, more doing the research work and what matters to find really, really relevant problems to solve as such. And of course, things like, integrated Slack chatbots and so on, they foster a lot the collaboration as well, also in the company. So that's good for us as well. Most of you know that product and technology, this is just very cross-functional activity, right? We need to have everyone connected and we need really tight exchange between people working and delivering on projects. And I think that's also something that is becoming more and more relevant.
Thank you. Dorian, your perspective?
I had this morning a review session with the product team. We just go through bits and pieces of the next LTS, long-term support release, that's coming up in about 2 weeks' time. And kind of like simply from that review, where do we apply that today? The first step, we applied it already before. We do, for the bigger features, always write up kind of like a press release, right? In the moment we want to announce a new feature, how would that be announced ahead of the moment we develop that? And we actually field test that often with a couple of our core customers, right? Would they, right? Because we co-develop the roadmap. And sure, yeah, there we use large language models to help us craft this. But that's just the beginning. The product team and then also the R&D/engineering team then starts to map out the different tasks. And yes, indeed, what we do there, we have applied our own medicine to ourselves. So we have obviously our own GitHub, we have our own Jira for tickets, our own documentation stuff, all put into a Acorn, how we call that, our internal tool that we sell, but we also use ourselves. And there as an example, the product and the engineering teams, when they plan out LTSs, they use this to map out sequences, to map out eventually even task descriptions. The third piece where we use it actively is in code generation. My remark before was critical in terms of, I have not seen any one of our engineers create A to Z, as an example, a fully executable piece of code that contributes to an LTS release. But I have seen them, as an example, experimenting. So I've seen them many times using such LLM-infused support tools to kind of like figure out what are possible paths to resolve that engineering problem, because it allows them to experiment with it. We have a strict 4-hour principle before things get checked in, and also a fixed principle about test coverage. And there again, we use these type of tools to help us expand test coverage and effectively then execute bits and pieces of that test coverage. But after, say, what is it now, 24, 36 months maybe, that we start to inject bits and pieces of that of various degrees into our support and development engineering processes, the piece that I'm allowed to say here in this webinar without my engineers listening to me, hopefully, is that at the core of it, it's actually a cultural change. Many of those engineers instinctively think, I can do that anyway better than the AI. And why do they think so? Because they made one or two experiences, and we come to that. I have a bet to offer to the audience, that whatever the so-called AI-generated code is, on closer inspection, it was a bit off. Right? So there's a trade-off between letting sort of a tool do that, and then you need to still invest a lot of time to make it really clean and workable and good, versus they say, oh, I can do that myself immediately. Why should I use a tool? And the funny thing is there is a bit of a reluctance, even from engineers, to start to deploy these kind of things. But I'd be curious how the other folks on the call here have perceived and have observed that.
Thank you. And Bartek, your perspective?
Yeah, so my perspective is that when I talk about product with the stakeholders or with our clients, I see that every time they need to build a new roadmap for their product, they have to take into consideration the AI part. Even if they at the end decide that they won't be doing anything related to AI, they just have to check and be sure that they are, they won't be missing out. So what has changed is that product managers as well as the development teams need to embrace AI at the level they are able to understand what is doable, how much will it cost, and if this is reasonable to implement any kind of AI feature to their product. And this is happening in almost all companies I have seen, even companies that doesn't have technology or and AI in their DNA. So they simply need help, not only to develop, but also to just decide if AI is reasonable for them or not.
Thank you, Denis.
I think to add also on the point of Dorian, I mean, the core question is also how to implement those tools, techniques, models, however you call it. Is a huge question in terms of culture. I fully agree with this fact. I think, especially with engineers, I've seen this a couple of times. I mean, they're very convinced in building the product and building also technological based improvements of processes, of business processes of any kind. But if it comes to their own processes, of course, they think they do it better because it's normal. It's like a human thinking that you have with all areas. If we sold an HR tech company, also the HR people were saying we can do the matching of people better. Until they saw, not really sure. And I think it's the same with engineers. Of course, they know that they do their work better than a machine can do it, because the machine is just not human. And I think this is a kind of normal human behavior. But once I think you come to the point that you, independently of the team, whether it's product or tech or engineering, whatever, it really matters that you can convince the people that it's enhancing their work and that they can focus on the right tasks, that they can focus on the important tasks. As Gergana was saying, I mean, the core thing in product is not the researching part; it's the interpretation part. What do you do out of it, and how do you outline your product? So it's not about finding additional things. If a LLM model is helping you with this, it's super nice. It saves you time, and you can refocus your time on the right things. And I think this takes a lot of conviction, because it's people, and people are always convinced that they are better than anybody else, which is good. Also, I think it's good that people are confident in their work.
Thank you. And Mingyang?
Yeah, I totally agree with Dennis. Like, of course, a lot of people believe they can do still their own job better than AI. But I think maybe because our company AppliedAI is about to provide consultancy, provide a different perspective, and want to bring all the companies really being still keep competitive in the AI age. So our job is to actually try to help people open their mind. And so the first thing I noticed in our job, like the different project, is we will use AI agent or really large language models to challenge our own thought. Like, is this really the best way to plan anything? Can you actually think about different perspective? Like normally you will discuss with your colleague, but now there's actually another person or another tool that you can discuss with. So we heavily use it as an inspiring partner. And on the second part, I think, of course, no doubt on the engineering part, but this because our companies in Germany, and you all know they are really careful about all the legal part. Will they lose the IP? That was heavily discussed, but I do see this will still coming very fast. I already know some company, they are using it not only on the POC phase, but also really rollout has a huge impact on their employees. The last part maybe was not really mentioned is also on the content generation. So our company ourselves as well, I know that we also create different agents for customers. We use the different AI tools or maybe create agents to for marketing content generate as well as something within the software, because still you will need some synthetic data and you will need different kind of text generated content. Yeah.
Yes, we can all agree that AI is changing in a way. It's augmenting our possibilities, our capabilities. So let's just move on to how we develop products. So next question, how has AI changed the way developers write, test, and maintain code? Bartek, could you start, please?
Yeah, sure. I think we've already said something around this. So basically, we can say that there are tools that helps developers write codes, that writes tests, so they don't need to do it, or take care about other simple tasks that developers do on daily basis. But the bigger question for me is which of these tools can be widely adopted and are accurate enough at the level that first developers feel that they can use it and they are sure about the quality of the work that they done. Because the biggest issue with that is that even if you have tool that works really well, that can write really nice code, developers have still, I would say, issue with change management, with changing the way they've done their work, and to just trust that the solution works as it should. So definitely any AI you would like to apply to software development cannot, at least at the moment, cannot work fully autonomously. They need to be reviewed by humans, and they need to be built in a way the review is pretty easy and straightforward. If review it takes too much time, then developers would decide to do the task themselves, right? So I would say that even if we see what is Microsoft Copilot adoption across the companies, like different companies, even technological companies, we can see that maybe 10% of the developers or maybe 20% of the developers actually use it on daily basis. Some of them have it but don't use it. And we are talking about the most widely adopted AI tool to enhance software development, right? And the adoption rate is extremely low, actually. So yeah, I wouldn't say that software development changed a lot in last 2 years.
Thank you, Bartek. Denis?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I'm in 2 years maybe. I was curious about what number you're dropping, Bartek, whether it's 2 or 10 years. But if I compare it like 10 years ago, actually, I'm not a coder. I'm not a CTO. I'm more coming from the commercial side. So I only want to have the delivery in the end. So I don't care too much about the technical details, to be honest. But as a CEO, I have to find the funds. So for me, it's always a core question: what do you need to build a product? What I see, what has changed is when I built my first company, we had, of course, like a technical head. It was outsourced, but we had a technical head in the beginning. We had a couple of people writing code. It was a couple of. Right now, we have a technical head and we have only one developer. What is the change? The change is that with tools, technology, enhancements, of course, also standardization, libraries, and all the stuff, we can just speed up the process. And then you need more the highly educated thinking part in the engineering, instead of just having masses of developers. So this is, for me, the most crucial change. I don't see us building, in the end, some 100 engineers at some point if Bont is scaling. What we need is like a couple of or a dozen of people. So it will be smaller teams, more productive, because they are focusing on delivering value and thinking about problems, and then enhancing it with tools, technology, AI to deliver it. Because the delivery is sometimes basic work, like standard components that you need to write a login model, or to have some processes, some code snippets. And this you can enhance. And you're right, Bartek, you still need lots of manual review. I fully agree. So I don't contradict. You need this kind of manual control for the next couple of years, pretty sure.
Thank you, Denis. Gergana?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with everything said from Bartek and Denis. Of course, I mean, just to sum it up, right? We have lots of routine, low-level code writing tasks, which are just not going to be important anymore. So we eventually will need less junior developers. We'll need skilled people who are able to work with that. And we will not only scale through adding additional developer resources, but we'll also scale to doing that on a smarter way, to having the right people who can work with those tools, who can use the automation, and who can just help us build more products faster. And I think what's interesting, it's in a way, it was like this for a while already, like using different frameworks, right? Because you would not want to work with engineers who would only write the simplest code themselves. You want to work with technicians who know existing frameworks. There is a framework for everything, right? A login framework, authentication framework, whatsoever, right? So you don't want people to start writing code from scratch. And I think it's similar in a way with the AI, just increasing that importance of the knowledge that people have of existing tools and frameworks and their ability to work with those so that they can deliver a faster.
Thank you. Mingyang?
From my knowledge, I think it changed in different ways. If we divided, let's say, different company or product into like really corporate companies or startups or small size companies, I think the corporate definitely haven't really adopted or their developer hasn't really heavily used those code generation or code tools in their live product because their product has been written maybe 15 years ago, even longer. And of course, easily involved any kind of AI tools or replace the code with generated from AI is a super high risk. But I do see from different startups, which I know, like also there are some startups and founders, they are building the POC or their first product, really only using AI tools. There are a lot of also people who started business and now start to building product because they do if they do really good not only prompt engineering but maybe have someone to change to debugging and to deploy the code which generated from, let's say, Cursor or some other language model and AI tools. They can still achieve a really end-to-end product, which that's the part I really find amazing. Another thing I think most of the senior developers, of course, are hesitate using those new really code tools. I think that's something maybe it should change as a mindset in the future because they have to learn how to collaborate with those tools. In the future, I think the time will come very soon.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add to what Mingyang said. So yeah, I fully agree that these AI solutions works really well, really better, I would say, when they start from scratch, right? And they need to, and they can just like do everything by themselves. The hardest part is when you have like a large code base and you need to build something on the top of it, right? This is much bigger issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And Dorian?
Two observations, right, about this. The internal combustion engine was invented in about 1880, plus minus a few years, give or take, right? If you look into our cities today, our cities are clubbered up with cars and trucks. Now, you know what the funny thing is? You know, when the most expansive moment was of horse-drawn carriages, around 1920. Even though it was obvious that the internal combustion engine, and what they then did with the Model T from Ford and the likes, right, was completely game-changing. It took, at the time, about 50 years. My bet is going to be taking a bit less than 50 years now for that game-changing transport logistics change to take shape and take over the horse-drawn carriage. And it's the same here. It's exactly the same here. If I look at, actually on the other side of that room here is a good chunk of our engineering team. We have today the office day, so I went through all that I described before. None of them grew up with these type of technologies as a part of their education. None of them. All of them grew up in a more traditional, if I may say so, way to get code alive. So the interesting piece, obviously, is if you now fast forward to the future, say 5 years, 10 years, what happens with folks that, as an example, enter now a university for do courses in computer science, etc. right now, right? Because they will be brought up with these tools as part of their daily curriculum. That's going to be the change. Now, the other irony I would want to alert everyone to is the following. We just heard it actually on the call. There was a bit of resistance from the more senior guys, but it also said that some of the lower level stuff can be handed over to AI, and thus you don't need any more the lower level people. Now, here's the irony, right? All of us rise through the ranks. All of us, at least I, had to learn first that 1 and 1 is 2. I wasn't born with that know-how. Somebody had to teach that to me. And the same is with good code. Somebody needs to teach that to you, what good code is. Now, what happens if you simply skip that entire junior level apprentice stage? Because no one is born an expert. No one. Now, in organizations, you have this pyramidal structure quite often. So if you remove that bottom layer, because you think it's much more wiser and more cost efficient to only have the top layer that, as an example, controls what AI does at low levels, you're going to miss eventually that whole top layer. Because if the top layer dies, who is going to come after, right? Because you have abolished effectively the junior people that kind of like rise through the ranks. So one element that I think we need to pay attention to in smaller but also larger software development shops is that we don't think about AI just as a complement to reduce cost of senior people and junior people by removing the junior people. We need to think hard how we transport that into a future where actually there is a combination of human machine with the necessary skill sets at each level. Otherwise, companies will have an issue in, say, 5 years, 10 years to maintain code, because AI itself will not maintain that code, right? It cannot, because there is always something outside that the AI cannot control.
Thank you. As all you can see, AI is changing basically skill set required for development a lot. And my next question is basically about the future. So how can we prepare, including especially engineers, for the future of AI-driven software delivery? Mingyang, can you start?
Yeah. I think this might not be a suggestion for all the developers for sure, but I think always try to keep update is good. However, keep update is very hard. So our company, of course, we are trying to build expertise if we call ourselves like thought leadership, and we try to provide try out different tools and being at the front gate for all of our customers. I think one thing the developer will talk about upscaling still within a software industry. It has to be, of course, also understanding the advantage and disadvantage of all the new upcoming tools. For example, if you don't have the opportunities to try out by yourself what the computer use has brought to you, and you should at least try to keep updated with what other people has already tested and do some benchmarking, so on. For example, there is always something surprising coming out. We are currently heavily investigating on the AI agent part, how it will shape the software development. So we're trying to establish a concept about agent ops. I know some people will think this is a buzzword because we talk about ML ops so many years, company might still not adopting it. And then last 2 years ago, there's the hype questioning about if there will be coming a LMLM ops, and now we're talking about agent ops. But I have to say, after we did try out combining different models like computer use and GPT-4o, last year we did the testing. It's published in our white paper. I have a very confident feeling that the whole testing from UI testing, functional testing, and eventually even some kind of user acceptance testing could be first tested with an agent. And this will save not only the money, but also time and effort to finding the user and the time of the user itself. That would be an example. So I think not only the company, the developer itself, but also their manager, like the management of those software warehouse, for example, STX, I think it's very important to get such result of different new tools validation, and to recommend some maybe certain responsible people to test it themselves and try to keep up to date in this development.
Thank you, Mingyang. Dorian?
I think Angel once said the only certain thing about the future is that it's uncertain. So I'm a bit cautious about trying to predict anything, how that sort of development cycle is going to look like. I think I made a few pointers. The one thing I think, at least that we try over here to instill as a discipline, right, is all of us have seen maybe Copilot, GitHub Copilot generated lines of code that seemingly look okay, but they're just a bit off, right? People, I don't see the whole audience, but people, please raise your hands if you've seen that, and I'm sure a good chunk in the audience have seen this kind of things. A variable set that is just slightly off, right? Now, it looks like okay, but it's not. You check in that code, it happens automatically, and you don't recheck that code. It slumbers there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and then suddenly, whatever happens, there is a race condition because of exactly that piece of code, right? And the whole thing breaks down. And by the way, here's the bet. I bet we're going to see in the next 5 years a significant institution going down underwater because of exactly that. The equivalent of a fat finger event in AI-generated code. Because it looks seemingly okay, but it's not. So I think one of the elements that we need to rethink a bit is this is not AI versus human or human versus AI. I think we need to rethink a bit how we develop this in a combination of maybe, productivity gains for more manual, repetitive tasks, but on the other side also make sure that as a organizational setup, one has the necessary controls, checks and balances, including guardrails in, that you realize what's getting checked into your code base. It's not that humans don't make errors, they make plenty of errors, right? But most human errors in coding are so unsubtle that a good test coverage will recover them. Some of those AI errors that I have seen in Copilot from GitHub are so subtle that if you don't have really tight guardrailing and testing around, you essentially build up a burden. So that's actually one thing that I'm a bit more skeptical about the future, that without that, you have the equivalent of the early airline industry. Everybody was happy that finally they can fly, just actually for those planes to fall off the skies because they didn't pay attention to some of the security features that you should build into a plane to make it safe. It took another 80 years to make it the most safest mode of transport. I think that journey is ahead of us with AI, generally speaking, and also particularly speaking for AI development or AI-supported development.
Thank you, Dorian. Gergana?
Yeah, so touching again more on the point of like upskilling teams and AI-driven roles. So for me, the importance here of cross-functional collaboration grows. So we need to really encourage that a lot, especially close work with data scientists and just creating collaborative environments where people can experiment. There is where most of the learning usually takes place, right? Of course, mentorships and stuff like this are helpful, but really from my years of experience, it's been mostly like when you provide enough room for people to experiment, when you give them just some space for collaboration and experimentation and also access to the required tools, then a lot happens also just by itself. And, keeping your hands off people sometimes even helps. On the other side, I see a huge challenge on behalf of the whole policies and how policies pretty much are not clear yet. And that on the other side limits the actual real world implementation of that experimentation. So that I see most of a risk of also develop further AI developments, especially, of course, in European environment.
Thank you, Gergana. Bartek?
Yeah, so in terms of skills that developers needs to develop, I would say that there are two. One is to be able to do research in terms of checking if new AI tool really works for them. Because what I also observe is that I recently met with a friend of mine, and he said that he's using a great AI tool that writes tests. And he loves it. All his team loves it. It is great. They save a lot of time because of these tests and stuff like that. And then he recommended to his friend, and his friend said that it doesn't work in their case, like totally, because they have complicated code, they have complicated tests, and simply this tool doesn't work. Most of the AI solutions currently are overfitted to some use case in most cases, and they just work sometimes and sometimes doesn't. So it's important to do a research and being able to know what AI tool is capable of and if this is usable in my situation or not. This is something that I believe every developer needs to learn, especially if you take into consideration the pace of advancement in this area and new tools that are like approaching the market almost every day. And it will be easier because, like we said before, it's quite easy now to build some new tool using AI, because when it works from scratch, it works really nice, right? So these tools will go to the market faster and faster. So it's important to being able to do a proper research and find out if we can use these tools or not, stuff like that. And the second, which I believe, second skill that is probably even more important is being able to adapt fast, right? The landscape is changing. New tools are approaching the market. The way we write a code will change in next years for sure, and the pace will be bigger than it's currently for sure. So being able to adapt, use new tools, learn new tools is probably the most important skill that developers need to develop. And probably the most obstacle that I see currently in developers is just afraid of change, right? So I believe that if we see developer that is senior developer and would like to do his job in the same way it was done like in recent years, then it's really not a good way to boost your career or even to just like do a good job in next few years, right? You need to be able to adapt to the situation really fast.
Thank you, Bartek. And Denis?
Yeah, so I think generally it happens to engineers the same that happened to all job roles. I mean, what Bartek just said is you need to be open and learn new technologies all the time. You need to reserve a continuous amount of your available working time to learn new things. Otherwise, you will not stay on top of those. And this is like the continuous learning thing. This applies not only for the education of juniors, but also applies for senior people. I mean, if you now have a 50-year-old CTO who has not had any further education in the last 20 years, you cannot really use him because they're still talking about C++ or whatever. So you have not like the right skill set to build something new. I think this continuous learning is something which applies very much to engineering, as you have to be super agile, because something, as Dorian said, in 5 years, a big company can fail just because of a change in the technology environment. This will happen. I fully agree with this. This will happen quite soon. And we saw this in the technology and in the telecommunications environment with Nokia, for example. I mean, they failed so quickly just because of a technology change. And this will happen in tech as well, just because you're not staying on top of the latest technology. And then you're just simply pushed out of the market quite fast.
Okay, thank you, guys. As you mentioned, for sure, everyone needs to be able to adapt very fast to changing environment. And I think we can move to a Q&A section now. And there is one question from Julia. There is the question about what are the common pitfalls when adopting AI and how they can be avoided. Who wants to start with this one?
Okay, so I can start. So I believe that the most common pitfall is that being overhyped simply and not treating adopting AI project as a normal project that should be related to companies' business objectives, that should be should follow normal project rules where we compute what kind of ROI we can expect, how we will deploy the solution on production, how we will maintain it, and all that stuff. This is often a great pitfall that that many companies cannot avoid. Like they try, but they just do it anyway, right? So I believe that not treating AI as something extremely new that needs to be treated in a different way is very important. AI project is almost exactly the same as normal project and should be treated in the same way. And probably the only small part that could be different than the normal software development project is that sometimes at the beginning you need to do some quick POC just to check the accuracy of the technology, if it's enough to deploy project on production, right? To deploy the solution on production. And this is the only one thing that probably differs from the normal software development projects.
Yeah. Maybe everyone wants to answer that. So the question is anyone willing to refer to some pitfalls from you guys?
I could maybe add on that on Bartek's perspective. So I think I understand where you come from when you say it's like any other software development project, and I partially agree with it. On the other side, I also think it depends, right? Why it depends? Because so on the one side, there are quite a few complexity related, obviously, to policies and how you approach introducing the AI, which just usually need to be considered at a larger scale, which are not considered just within an individual engineering or product team, but maybe refer to the whole organizations and require decisions at a higher level. Just when it comes to how do we position strategically in terms of AI, how do we want to adopt AI in our company? And I think there is just a difference between small incremental bets and just putting a larger bet on what we want to approach. This doesn't mean that return on invest and that this type of data is not necessary. Of course, we need to look into that. But of course, there might be also a lot more uncertainty when it comes to introducing a new AI-enabled framework for something we didn't deliver yet. And I think that's in a way then different. So I do think that there are major differences there than a traditional software delivery project as such, even though there are for sure also common parts.
Thank you, Gergana. And as we are running a little bit out of time, the last question here today, how can smaller organizations with limited resources effectively benefit from AI in software delivery? Who would like to start? Thank you.
Maybe I can answer this question shortly, because we exactly our company are also focusing on helping the small, medium-sized companies in Germany. And I don't know if that's applied to most of the other European countries, but like in Germany, there's a lot of different programs, especially supporting small, medium-sized companies to really adopt AI, and using such resource and join those program which supported or even bringing funding from the government is definitely a way to think. Another thing is, I think small, middle-sized company should not hesitate to use the most powerful AI tools, maybe to have a standalone repository and using students like cheap resources to try out if they can still achieve what they want in the delivery KPIs. And if yes, they should actually adopt it much easier than compared with big concerns, because they have less dependencies from maybe their complicated product, and align different department to finally have one decision to really adopt it.
Thank you, Mingyang. Anyone would like?
Yeah, maybe I will add just that most of AI solutions that can be used for software development are not like I would say expensive, very expensive. Most of them charge by the job they done or for the user and stuff like that. So if you are a small company, you just pay smaller money simply, right? So I don't think it is obstacle. I mean, you don't need to bring a lot of resources just to implement AI. Of course, on the other hand, if you want to develop your own AI solution, then actually is probably not something that small company could do.
Thank you, Bartek. And let's try to answer one more question. Will AI eventually replace certain software development roles, or will it create new opportunities? What do you think, guys?
The Luddites said when the internal combustion engine got invented, this is the end of the world how we know it. Everyone will be unemployed and all the rest of it. It's correct to state that today there are not many carriage makers left in the world, right? Horse-drawn carriage makers left. And there are not many coachmen left. That's a fair statement. But if I look at the number of bus drivers, truck drivers, personal car drivers, that's actually massive. And the same thing's going to happen here. The exact same thing's going to happen here. Everyone who has touched a large language model over the past 2 years knows that the progress is A, fast, true, but B, especially in the moment you start to deploy that on your own data, you need to take care, it was mentioned before, that you need to kind of like apply some love to it. These things are not on autopilot mode anytime soon, and anytime meaning whatever, 5, 10 plus years. So the job profiles will fundamentally change, but you will actually see more job profiles that work in combination with this than you see job profiles getting out of business because they've been replaced by AI. That's I think is going to be here the same like with any other technological revolution, despite what the Luddites said in every of these revolutions.
Thank you, Dorian. Would anyone like to add something else?
Yeah. I want to answer starting with a joke I heard yesterday from Daily Show, because now DeepSeek apparently hit ChatGPT very hard. And the joke was like, oh, it's very fun to see one AI replace the other AI, which of course is not happening yet. But compared to the question, like, will AI replace some developer roles? I think for individual developers, they should see this just as a job interview, right? So you could also be replaced with other better candidate. But if you develop yourself, and developing yourself is actually adopting AI, you could use now different AI tools as power, as equipment, and empower yourself. Then eventually your job will be safe as long as you are still comparing, I think, with other developers who also using AI tools. And eventually, so I don't think AI will replace the roles. The competition is still between human beings.
Thank you. Yes, Gergana?
Yeah, maybe just to finalize on that, I don't think AI will replace engineers. But what I do think is that eventually other people will become AI engineers, just because from the type of what engineers love today, from the type of details of work, that will change a lot. So eventually it's going to be other people who go in engineering with other skills and with more love for like higher order problems, which go into engineering roles.
Thank you very much. Okay, it's time to wrap up the webinar as it's 1 hour long. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for joining us today. A special thanks to our guests for sharing their insights and experiences. I do believe it has been a truly valuable conversation. We appreciate your time and engagement, and we hope this discussion sparked some new ideas and perspectives as well. Stay connected with us for more discussions like this, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.